Good evening. Tonight's the public hearing on the proposed annual action plan, the year 2020 to 2021, which is year one of the 2020 to 2025 consolidated plan. Today's date is March 11th, 2020. Tonight's public hearing is being held to provide residents of Fall River the opportunity to express their views on the draft of the Year 1 Annual Action Plan being prepared for submission to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The Year 1 Annual Action Plan addresses those strategies with activities to be undertaken through the CDBG, home, and ESG programs during the program year commencing July 1, 2020. The Year 1 Annual Action Plan is incorporated into the City of Fall River's Consolidated Plan. That document identifies community development, housing, and homeless needs, and a schedule of strategies to address them over a 5-year period. Copies of the projected use of funds for each of the programs to be undertaken in the first action year are available to you tonight. A summary of the proposed Year 1 Annual Action Plan was published in the Fall River Herald News, the Au Journal, and the Tribune, and citizens were invited to submit comments. Also, copies of the proposed plan are available for public review at the following locations: at the Fall River Community Development Agency at 1 Government Center, the Office of the City Clerk at Government Center, and the Fall River Main Public Library at 104 North Main Street. Residents have until March 30th to submit comments. All comments received during this review period and testimony, statements, letters, and petitions submitted at tonight's hearing will be used in updating the Year 1 Annual Action Plan for the program year to start on July 1, 2020. According to the submission timetable, draft copies of the Year 1 Annual Action Plan and pertinent related informational materials will be submitted to the City Council on March 19th. At its meeting on April 21st, the City Council will consider enacting of a resolution authorizing Mayor Paul E. Coogan to file the Year 1 Annual Action Plan with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development on or about May 6th. Year 46 of the Fall River's Community Development Block Grant Program, Year 34 of the Emergency Solutions Grant Program, and Year 29 of the Home Program are scheduled to begin July 1, 2020. Funding includes $2,929,990 for the CDBG program, $251,149 for the ESG program, and $1,012,716 for the home program. The format of tonight's public hearing will be to allow participants the opportunity to express their views on the proposed Year 1 Annual Action Plan. Prepared statements to that effect will be accepted. Those statements will be included in the record, will also be included in the annual plan. Persons wishing to speak have been asked to sign a separate sign-in sheet and will be called to testify. Each speaker should state his or her name and address, and if appropriate, the agency or organization that they are representing. We have 3 people signed up to speak this evening. We have William Perkins, COO of People Incorporated.
Thank you, Mr. Dyan. As you mentioned, I'm COO of People Incorporated, and this year we're asking for continued funding for 2 of our community-based programs that we've been operating for several years now. The first of which is the preschool that was formerly operated by the City of Fall River that we've now been operating. We're in our 6th year. And this program supports 155 preschool children. All of these children are from income-eligible families, with the exception of some that are under the care of the Department of Children and Family. And as you might suspect, Some of these children experience trauma in their lives, and so we're requesting the continuation of $56,000 in funding to support the clinical staff that is directly involved in supporting these children and families. Secondly, we operate a educational attainment program at the Resiliency Prep Academy. We're in our 4th year of that particular program. Specifically, we're involved in tutoring, MCAS preparation, but also providing vocational services to the students at the Resiliency Prep Academy that is not provided by the Fall River School Department. This year, we were asking for continuation of funding to support our tutors in that program that directly support income-eligible students at the Resiliency Prep Academy to attain their high school diploma. We appreciate all that the CDA has done to support these programs in the past, and we hope that we will be able to continue in fiscal year 21. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Kathy Ann Viveris? Hi.
Good evening, Mr. Dion.
Good evening.
Pleasure, staff members. I reside at 28 Hathaway Street, Fall River, Massachusetts, for the record. I'm here this evening to comment on the proposed award of $400,000 to Jobs for Fall River, or Bristol County Economic Development Consultants, as they're also referred to, formerly AKA FROED as well. I know that there were 2 applicants that filed information in hopes of obtaining these funds, and I understand that BCEDC is anticipated to receive these awards. I'm here this evening to state my strong objections to this award. There are numerous reasons. While I feel this would be extremely inappropriate, however, I wanted to provide some comment this evening. I will be providing additional written commentary, not just only to you. I realize you're in a difficult position, but I'm also going to be forwarding those directly to HUD. But I would like to hit the highlights. Specifically on the issue of the independent audit that was completed by Mr. Fiola and the Bristol County Economic, BCEDC. They did submit an independent audit, and I want to specifically quote the narrative that was provided by the independent auditors regarding the BCEDC, and I'm quoting, "The organization has experienced an operating loss, significant cash flow constraints, loss of a substantial portion of its revenue," and it goes on even further. They summarize, "These factors create economic uncertainty regarding the viability of the organization to continue its operations." I personally do not feel that we should be awarding $400,000 of public funds to an entity that, by statements of its own independent auditor, is on the brink of closure. Now, when we create independent audits, the entity is always allowed to give a management's response to those findings. This is management's response to the conclusion by their independent auditors. And this was provided to the independent auditors in the fall of 2019. There is an election process now underway which will replace the current Correa administration. And as a result of a new incoming Coogan administration, there is a strong possibility that this office would be reinstated as the city's prime economic development organization, along with the Fall River CDA funding. Now, I would stress, this was before the applications were submitted. This was before there was any evaluation to have been completed by you, Mr. Dion. Clearly, the management response is designed to provide the auditor with some reassurance regarding the long-term financial viability in hopes, in high expectation of receiving your CDA funding. Also, in the evaluations that were completed, the RDA was acknowledged for their lack of audits. As you know, Mr. Dion, there were an absence of audits, independent audits. The RDA was required to have independent audits. And while Mr. Fiola, as Jobs for Fall River, had an administrative services agreement with the RDA, they were obligated to file independent audits, but those had not been done for a period of 10 years. The information that was ultimately turned over after that contract was terminated did not provide sufficient financial documentation to complete the 2017 audit. The auditors for the RDA specifically mentioned that there was a material weakness found due to the lack of internal controls managed by Jobs for Fall River on behalf of the RDA, and that in turning over information, there were no general ledgers, there were no trial balances, there were no bank reconciliations. There was a serious failure in terms of the internal controls and the record keeping that should have been done on behalf of the RDA. So I have concerns that the RDA may have been somehow negatively impacted by the lack of audits, when the reality is that those audits should have been completed by Jobs for Fall River, and specifically Mr. Fiola. So I hope that that was appropriately addressed when we look at those evaluations. Additionally, as a result of the RDA's actions concerning those financial failures, a lawsuit ensued. Jobs for Fall River is in fact suing the Fall River Redevelopment Authority. The Redevelopment Authority, which is referred to as a city department in correspondence from HUD, and is referred to as a component unit of the city regarding the audits that needed to be provided. So effectively, we can try to couch it however we may choose. Jobs for Fall River, Inc. is engaged in a lawsuit with an entity of the city of Fall River. I find it very inappropriate that we should be awarding $400,000 to an agency that is suing a component part of the city of Fall River. Third, there was a letter from HUD in June of 2019 responding to numerous complaints filed by Mr. Fiola against the Fall River Community Development Agency. HUD ultimately responded that you, Mr. Dion, and local CDA had done everything correctly. They justified all of the actions that you had taken. But again, I find it highly inappropriate that we would be awarding $400,000 to an agency that has filed serious complaints against that same agency that is now considering a $400,000 grant award. The lawsuit was filed regarding open meeting law complaint. The Massachusetts Attorney General ruled that there was no violation of the open meeting law complaint. However, that lawsuit continues. And at a board meeting held in November, on November 14th of 2019, the minutes will reflect that Jobs for Fall River is in fact engaged in that lawsuit, but that they anticipate that due to a change in the board composition of the RDA, that the lawsuit may in fact be resolved, and that legal fees and additional charges for bad behavior will be recovered by Jobs for Fall River. And this is all speaking to the financial receipts that the agency hopes to obtain, and that were also cited in the independent audit. Mr. Dion, I have tremendous respect for you. We've worked together, and I know that you're in an extremely difficult position. Mayor Coogan has gone on record saying that you, Mr. Dion, are going to make this decision. Based on the information before us, I am hard-pressed to believe that you, absent any undue influence, would make the decision to make this award, given all of the information and additional information that I have not addressed this evening, but will address in future correspondence, to make that award. Clearly, the expectation was that the Coogan administration was going to make changes in the award of CDA funding, that the Coogan administration was going to address any outstanding legal issues that might be in play regarding Jobs of Fall River and the RDA, AKA the City of Fall River. And unfortunately, you are left with the difficult decision as to where to place these funds. I would close on a positive note. I believe that the Fall River Redevelopment Authority, under the direction of its Executive Director, Maria Marasco, is eminently qualified to provide the economic development services that are requested by the CDA. While she has only been with the RDA for a period of approximately 8 months, she has a long tenure with the state of Massachusetts providing economic development services. Regarding the discussion regarding staffing, it's March. If the award were made, I am confident that she could secure the necessary staff members to completely comply with all of the requirements of CDA funding and do it in a professional and highly desirable way. To suggest that she would not be able to recruit individuals who have the talent and capacity to do that within that 3-month period is really unfair to her and to the pool of candidates that might exist within the greater Fall River area. But she should be given that opportunity. I'll close by stating that I cannot see why the Community Development Agency would be awarding $400,000 to an agency that, by virtue of its own independent audit, is on the brink of financial closure, is suing the City of Fall River, has failed to meet other administrative responsibilities to the RDA, has filed numerous complaints with HUD regarding the local CDA office, and clearly is in no better position to provide these services than the alternative candidate, the Fall River Redevelopment Authority. I thank you for this opportunity, and I will be providing additional information.
Thank you. You're going to put all that in writing for me? Good. So I can keep it for the record. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Kathy. Ken Fiola.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Ken Fiola. I reside at 307 Archer Street, Fall River, Massachusetts, and I am the Executive Vice President of the Bristol County Economic Development Consulting Group. And I'm here tonight to offer testimony in support of the award of the $400,000 from CDA to Jobs for Fall River Inc. Jobs for Fall River Inc. is the legal name of the corporation. BCEDC is actually the doing business as name. Well, I came to speak about our proposal. I was a little surprised by comments made by previous speakers. I think there's a lot of inaccuracies in those comments that I'd be happy to address, but I can address those tonight. But this is a public hearing, so you don't have the ability to ask questions or offer comment. So I'll just stop by saying a couple things. First off, the lawsuit that the previous speaker referenced is not being initiated or was not initiated by BCEDC against the Redevelopment Authority. It was actually a 3-party independent lawsuit initiated by myself, Dan Chulo, and Brent Wynn. as opposed to the BC EDC office. Secondly, that lawsuit originated from a violation of an open meeting law interpretation that is now has gone before the court. We are currently in negotiations with the redevelopment authority to see if there's a settlement or if they would like to continue to move forward with litigation. We are fully prepared to continue to move forward with litigation if necessary. Thirdly, with regard to the audit issue that the previous speaker referenced, I don't think anyone should be surprised that the office over the last 3 fiscal years has not received any CDA funding. That funding over a 3-year period could be somewhere in the vicinity of $900,000 to $1.2 million, dependent upon the allocation that may have been given during the past 3 fiscal years. Obviously, the loss of that money had an impact on our ability to continue to move forward. As a result, we downsized a bit, and we continued to provide low-interest loans to businesses throughout the community. We also provided private consultant services to businesses throughout the community, securing millions of dollars on behalf of those businesses for market rate housing and other projects. And we continue to provide overall economic development services. So I think there's a lot of misinterpretation being offered here tonight. There's a lot of inaccurate information being offered tonight. I think one thing we can all agree with is the past 3 years were tumultuous at best. The former speaker was a part of the administration that is now under indictment. And I think that's cast a significant pall upon the overall business climate of the city. But moving forward, we fully anticipate that we're going to be able to provide economic development services as part of the CDBG award. In addition to the $400,000 that we're requesting from CDBG, we're going to be pledging approximately another $1 million or so of our own money to augment the revolving loan fund pool, which will result in more job creation, retention, opportunities for low and moderate individuals throughout the community. If you look at our track record from 1978 through June of 2017, you will see that during that time frame we successfully administered more than 40 years of CDA and CDBG appropriations. The administration of that money resulted in the documented creation of more than 15,000 jobs, private investment of close to $80 million, and the recruitment of businesses to the city such as Amazon, Meditech, Blount, Millstone, and myriad of other businesses that were recruited, and also dozens upon dozens of businesses that were financially assisted via our loan programs. In fact, if you look at our loan portfolio, you'll see that we've assisted more than 600 Fall River businesses as part of our revolving loan fund itself. So I think we are prepared and can certainly handle the revolving loan fund monies that may be coming our way. We are confident in our abilities to continue to create jobs and also create and retain jobs for low and moderate income individuals, as well as administer the storefront improvement program. And I'm not here to disparage people. I think people certainly have their own opinions. But unlike the previous speaker, I do think that you have the ability to independently evaluate these applications. And I think when you evaluate our application against the competitor's application, you rightfully determine that we're the best company and organization to move this program forward. Clearly, the existing organization that may be trying to draw down CDBG funding for this current fiscal year has been unable to do so. They're failing miserably with regard to the drawdown of that money, and they're also failing to create and retain jobs for low and moderate income people. And if you look over the past 3 years in which we didn't have any economic development monies for our organization, you'll see that throughout the time frame under the administration of Carrere and Kathy Ann, you'll also see that that money had to be continuously rolled over and not used for economic development purposes. So this whole thing is a little bit contentious. It's, I find it somewhat humorous that we'd be speaking about this tonight, but it is what it is, and I offer my testimony orally, and I'll provide you with written testimony as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in the audience? If not, that concludes the public hearing. I want to thank everyone for attending and participating. Thank you.